Well, folks, the inevitable is upon us. It's time for the channel to participate in current discourse. May God help us all. LSS put out their FAQ article for ProQuest Las Vegas, and sadly, the part folks are talking about most isn't the sweet new Teclo cards. Under the section titled Restricted Player Eligibility, LSS has doubled down on a change that was first implemented in the previous PQ season. ProQuest seasons are intended to provide a qualification pathway for players for the next Pro Tour, and players who have already qualified are restricted from entering events as follows. A player who wins a ProQuest Las Vegas event may not play in any more ProQuest events during the season. This decision has created incredibly polarized opinions, some more coherent than others, and I think there are bits of truth that we can take away from most of the dialogue surrounding it. I've got some big ol' opinions myself, so I wanted to take a look at the community sentiment, reiterate what I agree with, and challenge what I don't. What I absolutely do not want this video to be is some drama slop. While I may strongly disagree with some of the opinions here, I'm not trying to start any witch hunts or, be a prick. I just think it's a good topic worth getting into, but please, for all our sakes, keep the discussion civil and the jokes and jabs within the bounds of good nature. With all that out of the way, let's get into this policy, why I think it's a net positive, and why I think those who oppose it simply need a shift of perception. Alright gamers, like, subscribe, and let's discourse. I guess I'll start with why I think this is an overall good change, though I recognize it's not without flaws, and we'll get into those flaws soon enough. Flesh and Blood is the most competitive card game that exists. It's not close. And between its organized play structure, ever-improving reprint policy, and meaningful rewards all the way down to the local level, I think us competitive players are more taken care of than in any other game. And since it's no secret that Flesh and Blood struggles in the casual space, I think we're better off trying to bridge that gap. This PQ change works in direct service of that goal, making someone's fledgling steps into competitive fab a little less daunting. Instead of trying to box casual players into a corner where they don't get to experience the greatest parts of the game, I'm in full favor of extending them a branch in the form of a ProQuest season that offers a slightly more optimistic experience to the aspiring player. As Majin Bey put it, I remember what it felt like to go to my first ever Pro Tour, and I want others to get that chance too. This change obviously does not come at zero cost, but I reiterate, we competitive players are damn near spoiled. And since I feel that way, I find it difficult to sympathize entirely with folks that are opposed to the system. There's the undeniable, tangible rewards associated with a ProQuest. Packs, promos, and to the winner a gold foil and a spot on their hero's Roll of Honor. Detractors have been insisting that the gold foil farm is not their concern, and I'm inclined to believe them. We're not all out here clamoring for bunker beards. That leaves the admittedly awesome promos, the living legend points, and prize packs. So if you have a perfect PQ season with a 100% conversion rate and you win on your first shot, you're losing the chance to play for some more promos. The impact this has on the player base as a whole is, to me, negligible. And even to the few players it does affect, I would consider this close to a non-issue. If this is your primary concern, it sounds to me like you've got an exciting wager to make. Do you think you've got what it takes to concede in the top cut of multiple PQs, securing your promos but risking your Pro Tour qualification? Create your own excitement. My honest take in regards to missing out on prizing is, at the end of the day, I don't really care. You already won. Spread the love. You're a god gamer and you crushed your first ProQuest. Go write a guide or something. Now we get to another common criticism I've seen, and one that I really can't stand. Some folks believe that this change is, in any meaningful capacity, affecting the level of competition at these events. And even worse, it may be funneling shitters into our Pro Tours. One individual that I'd be willing to bet has never seen the second day of a Tier 4 said the following: "Personally, I think that if you can't get past the best players at your local PQs or Road to Nats, you have no business being at the Pro Tour. It's expensive and time-consuming to travel potentially around the world to get absolutely dunked on by players in a different league. The feelings of players who get to qualify for the Pro Tour after all the local killers already have will be trounced by the crushing heartbreak of spending thousands of dollars to 0-2 drop. I live in an objectively difficult area to qualify. I've qualified once from winning a PQ. It's hard. It should be. It's the Pro Tour, not the anyone can come tour. Practice more and get better." It is at this point in the video that I would like all of us, viewers, listeners, myself included, to take a moment, breathe in, and check the ever-loving fuck out of our egos. I don't care if you're possessed by the spirit of Pablo Pintor and equipped with Brody Spurlock's super goggles. You are not the gatekeeper of your local scene. I don't care if you 9-0 your PQ with the tightest gravy bones gameplay that nobody in the world but you could have executed. You're just not that important. None of us are. I'm also not sure where we got the idea that every single Pro Tour competitor is a stone cold killer. First off, you can buy a PTI. You can compete at the Pro Tour without a single tournament finish. Second, all PQs are not created equal. Our friend here is obviously from the bloodiest shark pit in the scene, so their ProQuest win was real. But what about Cletus from Elmore, Alabama, who won their 7-person, 1-horse ProQuest on the Max Armory deck? Have they proven their worth to compete? Do they stand among the greatest players in the game? How does a horse even shuffle cards? A ProQuest victory is not the moment we suddenly ascend to the status of Fab's greatest gifts. And as such, we shouldn't treat PQs as this hall of valor for the already qualified players to gatekeep the aspiring talent from feeling like they have a shot. If you won a ProQuest, hell yeah, congrats. That's no small feat. Now go do the next big thing. If I may do one of my favorite things and psychoanalyze with absolutely no merit, I think what's really going on with some of these players is they're worried that the perception of their accomplishments will be diminished. So go win a battle hardened and impress everyone. You know, if you're good enough. So now we get into the criticism which I am probably most sympathetic towards. At the end of the day, we like playing good games, and there's just something about Swiss rounds into a top cut that just makes the brain feel good. Some of us just love to play for any amount of stakes. This is the part I feel the most, and there's no denying that there are some players out there who aren't part of a team, don't have a testing group, spike their first PQ, and now they don't have a large-scale event to look forward to. There's no way around it. That's gonna suck for some people. But I think even without those remaining PQs, Flesh and Blood is still the most robust competitive card game out there. If you're one of those people, I encourage you to build that testing group within your community. Start a local Discord if you don't already have one and coordinate testing days. Some of my best and most educational games of Fab have come from days where the team just gets together on an off day and jams for hours. I promise, if you express the interest, you will find your people. If we cultivate our local scenes and encourage a culture of collective improvement, I think that'll help to alleviate another sentiment that I've been seeing and another one that I reject wholesale. Somehow folks have gotten it into their heads that the only players worth playing against are the players that have already won a ProQuest. You see how this already makes no sense. I understand wanting to compete against the strongest players in the area, but I promise you every single ProQuest you attend will have strong players. It's not even necessarily the case that the best players win within the first weeks. Sometimes gem luck or variance gets even the best among us. The idea that later PQs suddenly become softer in any meaningful capacity is, to quote 17th century philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, some ego-inflated head-ass shit. While Fab does give us some of the most balanced gameplay out there, it is still very much not chess. So now we get to the most contentious take that I personally saw gaining traction, and that even garnered a response from our Lord and Savior Brian Gottlieb. I think this encapsulates every point I've been trying to make about the perception shift we have to adopt in order to make this system really work. This person wrote, LSS will continue to bleed some of its most enfranchised players to Riftbound because it is barring them from competing after winning. In a retailer's newsletter on August 6, LSS told the LGS, we align, not undermine. OP is undermining some of their most passionate players. Now, first and foremost, I'm gonna mash X to doubt that Fab's most enfranchised players are suddenly quitting for Riftbound. The game's like 5 minutes old and is already riddled with supply and QC issues, rules erratas, a tier 0 format, and don't forget cheating scandals. I understand the excitement for the shiny new toy, but I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves. As for barring these players from competing after winning, I mean, sure, I guess, but that's a pretty dramatic interpretation of the policy. I'm choosing to look at it in a different way. You're not barred from competing in ProQuests. You already conquered the season. You beat the game. Are you really being undermined if you're not allowed to farm this tournament field? One so apparently soft that your very absence makes it a field not worth competing in? Again, I understand the love of tournament play, but I refuse to believe the most enfranchised and passionate players don't have a group to jam with. Hell, run money matches, make your own brackets, start a tournament series. AGE is running events that are setting the standard for grassroots tournaments, both in terms of production and prizing. LSS is also boosting the world tour with a larger prize pool and more callings than ever. All of this to say, there is absolutely no shortage of competitive flesh and blood out there if you really want it. There are some other opinions on the matter, some more well articulated than others, but I think we ought to take a look at what the man himself had to say. Brian Gottlieb chimed into one of the comments threads and said this: "Much of what we do is shaped around our most enfranchised players, but not everything can be. We pulled on this change in recent surveying because we needed to be 100% sure it was having the intended effect. It was overwhelmingly popular and produced our most attended season ever. I'm not going to try to convince any individual they should like it. I understand personal disappointment in not being able to play. I hope dedicated players can accept that occasionally we'll ask for understanding around policies that are in the overall best interest of the game." And I think this is really what it boils down to. Can we, as the competitive player base, come together and say, hey, you know what? We've got it pretty good here. If this is a net positive for the community at large, I'm willing to compromise. Imagine Flesh and Blood didn't have pro quests. Would you still play? Imagine there was only one per season. Would you still play then? My answer to both of these questions is an obvious yes, and unless you're some sort of weirdo, I'd wager you feel the same way. This version of the system is better than both of those outcomes. So if we can just take a step back, not worry about extracting the absolute maximum EV from every possible outcome, and instead work to cultivate local scenes that make everyone want to be a competitor, I think this system can be a resounding success. Turn your armories into dojos, shout out Dice Dojo, instead of the place where you put on the kitty gloves. Show these new players what it's all about, and get them excited to prove themselves at the Pro Quest and beyond. Also, I'll remember all of you, and if you haven't won a Pro Quest by the end of the season, the roasting is going to be generational. Just kidding. Unless. Thank you for listening to the ramblings of a madman. Let me know in the comments how you would iterate on this system. Like the video for more discourse, consider joining the YouTube memberships for even more ranting, and as always, have a great day.